Hello and welcome back to the Intermediate Java tutorial. This is our 7th tutorial. We're going to be learning about file input-output. Just to note, I did purposely skip Christmas. I didn't want you guys to have to watch a video on Christmas, so that's why I skipped Christmas and the schedule for uploading, so you guys can have a little break. But now Christmas is over, let's jump right back into Java. So let's go ahead and make a new Java project, even though you guys can see I didn't record this after Christmas, but you know, YouTube and all that. So let's go ahead and make tutorial 07. It's going to be file IO. So IO is always going, whenever you're working in computers, it's going to stand for input output. So just keep that in mind, so that if you ever see it, you know what it means, input output. So file IO. So we're going to be inputting and output to files. Now files are important because when you make like a variable or something in a program, it's only going to live for the lifetime of that program, or even in that method that it's used in. So say if you had a game and you had like a high score or something, you want that high score to be saved whenever the program opens and closes. So that's what files are for, so that you can have something outside of the program that remains on the computer that the program can access to edit things. So it's, you know, user settings are saved in files, configurations, you know, if you're on your web browser, will save your bookmarks and such to a file. So that's why it's important to know, and it's a very it's a very important thing. So I'm gonna have two examples. Well, it's gonna actually be three examples, because the first example is going to have multiple things. So we're going to go ahead, we're going to make a quick class write file. So this class is going to write to the file. So let's go ahead and make a public random r, or let's make this private. Sorry, I meant to do private. Alright, and then we're going to do a public write file, or I can just do this constructor. Alright, and then just do r equals, or this dot r, if you want to go that way, new random. Alright, so we got that. So let's make a public void. So public method void, and we're going to do write file. Oops. Write file, and it's going to take a string file name. Alright, so we've got this. So let's go ahead and do file equals new file. We have to actually file and from Java IO, and that's actually import all from Java IO, so that we can use other input output. Java.io is where all of the file stuff is going to be. So if you're going to work with a class that uses files, you're going to probably want to just do an import all, so you can have just one line of code and you can use anything using files. So that's why I'm doing that. So let's just do path name, file name. So this file is going to be just in the root of this project right here, and since it's in a jar, it's going to be like in the same folder as the jar. There are ways to make it so that it does it into an internal path, so it stays in the jar, or there's ways to do it to make it into, you know, an absolute path, so that it's, you know, in like the app data folder or something like that, if you don't really want the user to be able to see the file. But for now, for simplicity's sake, we're going to just go ahead and put it there. So we're going to make a print writer. A print writer is an output stream that it works exactly like the system.out output stream, except for instead of printing to the console, it's going to print to a file. So print writer out equals new print writer, and we're going to give it a file, and we want to give it that file. You could just go ahead and put file name in here and it'll automatically create a file, or you can just put new file in there, but I wanted to show you guys this file class, so I'm going to put it separate from here, and in the other examples I'm going to do the same thing. So we have an error now, so let's see what the error is. Unhandled exception, file not found exception. So when you make this constructor with a file, it actually throws an exception in case that file doesn't exist. So, so we're going to go ahead and add that. Add throws declaration. All right. Okay, so that's that. Actually, we're just going to change this to IO exception. Alright, IO exception is the base class of all the exceptions. It's just a normal exception, but everything in the Java IO that is an exception extends IO exception. So we're going to go ahead. This program is just going to output 100 random numbers to the file. So we're just going to do that. I++. Alright. And in here we're going to do out.println, just like we did before, and we're going to go ahead and give it an int, and it's going to be between 1 and 100, or 1 and 100. So there we go. Alright, so this is a resource. So as you can see, it wants you to close it. So just out.close, and then we're done. This is our write file class. It is done. It's good. So let's go ahead and make a new main class. So class main1, and with the public static void string args, and this is gonna test this little class right here. So all right. So first things first, I just want to put up here static string file name, and we're going to go ahead and do tutorial 7 file 1.txt. I'm using the text file extension. You can use whatever you want, really. You don't even have to, but it's still going to work exactly like a text format when using the print writer class. So just know that it's going to work like a text format. So it's always good if you're using something like the print writer just to put it in a .txt so that other programs can use it, or the user maybe would have to go in and edit some things so it doesn't look intimidating, and maybe they're and things like that. So just keep that in mind. So let's do write. So we're going to make a write file, and we're just going to do write equals new write file so that we can instantiate that random class, that random object in there. Ooh, something's not right. Oh, I named this. I misspelled this. Control, remember Shift-Alt-R is how you rename a class. Write file. There we go. Continue. Alright, so now we got that. Alright, so now let's do write file with the file name. And alright, we got the error again, unhandled exception. So let's round as a try catch, just so we can do that, and then let's run it. Alright, so nothing notably happened in the console. But now so click on the project folder and hit F5 to refresh it. We have this file here now. Look at that. There are just a bunch of random numbers. So let's go ahead and let's run main1 again. Alright. Yes. As you can see, it actually just replaced what was there before with the new stuff. You can, I think, actually, if you were to go in here, you can do true with the print writer, I believe. That's not it. Let me actually, new print writer. There should be one that has, I guess the print writer doesn't have this. That's fine. I was looking at a class that actually had something that could just append to the file, but that's not the case here. So this is that. So yeah, so we pretty much made a class that puts into a file. So yeah, alright, so that's all great. Now let's make a class that can read the file. So read file. Alright, so let's read the file. Oops. Alright, so finish that. And in here we're just going to have a void that's going to read the file. So public void public method void read file, and this is also going to take a string file name. Alright, and let's just do another file equals new file name. Alright, and let's import java.io, so import java.io. Alright, so since we're just going to be reading simple text from a file, all we really need to use is a scanner. Scanner in equals new scanner. So instead of using the system input, and we have to import this, instead of using the console input like we were using before when we would do system.in, we're giving it a file. So it's going to be a different input stream, but it's still going to work exactly like our scanner always worked. So I believe I said when I first taught you guys the scanner that you can do this, and now I'm teaching you how to do that. So let's go ahead and fix this unhandled exception. File not found exception. So let's go ahead, copy that, and let's just do throws file not found exception. I'm just going to put it in the throws so that we can deal with the try catch in when we actually call this. So while, so now we're going to check if the next line, if there is another line to check. So in.hasNext, this checks if there's a line, if it's not the last line, or if there is a line at all. So just keep that in mind. Sysout in.next, and it's going to print out the line, and then in.close. Alright, so that's that. So let's go ahead. So yeah, this is how you read a text file, basically, just with the scanner. So let's go ahead and make a new class, main2, with a public static void main. And let's go ahead and just copy this, because we want to use the same file. But generally, you're going to have just like a constants class. You're just going to put it in there, especially what I do in my game. So let's go ahead and just do read file, or read file equals new read file. So we want that, and then we're going to go ahead and just do read file dot read file. Alright, and surround with the try catch. Alright, so since we know this is a file not found exception, so this exception is going to be thrown once this file is not found, when it doesn't exist, when the file given this file name doesn't exist. So let's just go ahead and sys out so that we don't get an ugly stack trace. And we're going to go ahead and do a string.format. I'm not sure if I taught you guys how to use it, string.format, but we're going to go ahead and you can look up how to use a string.format, but I will be using it in this tutorial quite a bit. So the file, comma, and then we're going to do an escape character. I haven't taught you guys escape characters either, because I haven't taught you guys working with strings. That is a future tutorial. But escape characters are important. This is how you have like quotes and stuff in a string without actually closing the string. So we're going to go ahead, give it a string, and put was not found. Period. And we're going to give it file name. Alright, so actually let's go ahead, refresh this before you do this. Delete this file, and let's see what happens when you run it. Main2. I want to run main2. There we go. Oh, it ran main1 for some reason. Okay, so let's actually delete this again, click into main2 and run it. There we go. The file tutorial7 was not found. That's because there is no file. So that's what happens when there's no file. It just throws this file not found exception. So let's go ahead and run main1 again so that we make that file. Refresh that, and then we run this. You can see it got the numbers. So as you can see that right here, 72, all this, with a new line at the end. So yeah, so we pretty much just read a text file and output it to the console. Pretty simple. But what if you have information that you don't want the user to be able to just go in? So we can actually just go in and edit these numbers as much as we want. So we can actually edit this 42 and make it 42, whatever that is. And you can see it actually changed. So Sometimes you don't want the user to be able to do that. Sometimes you do. It really depends. Configuration files, you do want the user to be able to edit sometimes, but say you have like a game and you want to save a high score. To do that, you're gonna actually want to use store an object into the file, which you can do. So let's actually go ahead and just close all this, and let's go into our new example. We're going to go ahead and make two classes. We're going to make our main3 with the public static void, and we're going to go ahead and make a save class. So this is pretty much how we're going to do it in a game. You'd have a save class that manages everything you want to save in the game or the program or whatever. So say you have you have a game and you want to save what level they're on, what their high score is, all that stuff. You just go ahead and put it in save. So let's go ahead and make a private. Let's just make. We're just gonna say one thing: private int high score. All right, private int high score. Let's make a constructor for that. So public save int high score. This dot high score equals high score. Alright, and then we're going to also make another constructor that takes in a save object and just copies it. So actually we're going to go ahead and make getters and setters for high score after that. So go ahead and do that, and we're going to do this dot high score is equal to s dot get high score. Okay, so that's that. Ours are our constructors and our getters and setters. So, alright, so now we're going to make some classes. We're going to make a class for loading, and we're going to make a class for saving. So we're going to go ahead and do public static save load. So this is going to take file name. Alright, so just before we start, I'm just going to go ahead and do this throws. There's going to be another exception that we need to throw, but just before I start, I'm just going to go ahead and do IO exception. And we need to import java.io. Do all of them. We're going to use many classes. So we're just going to do save s equals null and return s. So we're just going to start with a null save object. So, okay, so now we're going to read an object from the file. So we're going to go ahead and make, Java has some pre-built-in class. One is the object input stream. This one right here. We're just going to call this in, and we're just going to declare it. We're also going to do file input stream. So this is going to pretty much going to be what's going to read our file. So we're going to call this one file in. Alright, and then we're just going to make a file equals new file name. Alright, so now we've got all that set up. Now let's go ahead and construct our thing. So let's do file in. So the first thing that's going to happen with this file is that input stream is going to use it. So new file input stream, and we're going to give it a file. Okay, so now that uses that, it's never closed. We can just go ahead and do file in.close as we go. Alright, and then in equals new object input stream. And we're going to give it file in. So what this is doing is it's getting an input stream, and it's going to use it as this object input stream. So it's taking this one in, and so we're like, okay, so we're going to read an object that is going to be given to us through this file and input stream that is going to be reading this file. That's kind of how it works. It's kind of like the scanner using the file. So we're going to go ahead and also do we're going to in.close as well. Actually, after we close our file in, so in.close. Alright, so now we're going to go ahead and we're going to set the save to what we read in the object. So we're going to do new save in.read object. Alright, so we're going to get some errors first. So first of all, this read object returns an object type but this save constructor takes in a save type. So what we simply have to do is do a cast. So that's that. I think I taught you guys cast, but just know it's going to be converting the object into save. So now we have another one, Classnotfoundexception. So this is just in case you're trying to, read a file that was made by a different program that uses a different class, and it doesn't, it doesn't find that class. It doesn't exist because it's in a different program. That's what this means, Classnotfoundexception. So we're going to just add that to the throws declaration. All right. So that's that. We're done loading. And of course, if this fails, this S will be null, but it will have a throw. It will throw an exception, so it should never return null. All right. So now we're going to go ahead and make a save method. So public static. This one's just going to be a void because all it's going to do is save and then get out of there. So save. We're going to give it a save that it's going to put to a file and the file name. Again, file names usually in a constant, but we're not going to be using constants right now. So object, so now instead of doing an input stream, we're going to be using an output stream. We'll call it out. And again, instead of using a file input stream, we're going to be using a file output stream. Alright, and then we're going to make our file. File equals new file name. Oops. We're going to call this file out. Alright. So file out equals new file output stream file. Alright, and then the same thing as we did before, out equals new object output stream file out. So it's pretty much going to be, it's saying, oh, we're going to read from this is going to be using this stream that is using this file. So, okay, so now we need a throws declaration. Let's just do an IO exception because these are different exceptions that it's going to be doing. So, alright, so now we have that. So let's go ahead and do out.writeObject s. So it's going to write an object. So pretty much it's going to write whatever object we give it to the output stream, which is the file, and then so yeah, it's going to do that. So now, as before, we have to do out.close and file out.close. All right, telling it that we're done with the file. Okay, so this isn't quite done, but I do want to go ahead and make the other program. The main class, and then I'll show you what's wrong with this save class. But do know there is something wrong with it. So, alright, so let's go ahead. Before we do this, what I'm going to do is I'm just going to have it to make an array of 100 numbers and between 1 and 1,000, and whichever is the biggest number wins. Whatever. So we're going to go ahead and just make a private string, or private static string, 6 leading zeros. So a lot of times in like games and stuff, you're gonna have like a high score, but it's gonna show a bunch of zeros beforehand. Those are leading zeros. You can do that in Java with the string.format. So I just made a class because we're going to be using that a lot in this little program. So string.format format. So to do that, just do in quotes % and we're going to do 06, telling it to do 6 zeros, D, so it's an int, I, so it's going to put I in for D, whatever the value of I is, where this D is. Alright, so that's just that, and then we're going to go ahead and make a simple algorithm, probably kind of messy, but this is just going to go ahead and do, we're going to do static int highest int in or highest in int array. And the reason I'm making all these statics because we're going to be calling them directly in the static void main string args, and whenever you're using something inside a static method, everything has to be static. So that's just that. So int array. So it's going to take an array. and what it's going to do, int max equals 0. So it's going to start out with max and return max. So what it's going to do is going to do for, we're going to do for each loop, for int I an array. We're going to do max is equal to math.max I and max. So what it's going to do, so right now it's 0. So say the first number was 3. It's going to set, it's going to look at this, the first number, which is 3, and then max, which is 0. It's going to, okay, so the biggest one is 3. So max is now 3. And then the next iteration of the loop, let's say it's 2. So 2 and 3. Okay, so 3 is bigger than 2, so it's still going to be 3. And then the next one, it sees 5. It's going to do 5 and 3. And it's going to say, okay, so 5 is greater than 3, so it's going to be max. So that's just the simple thing, and it's going to do that till the end of the array to find whichever one is the biggest array. So, okay, so that's that. So now what we're going to do is going to make a save s, and we're going to make a random r equals new random. All right. And we're going to int scores equals new int 100. Alright. And we're going to go ahead just to int high score. Okay. So now we have our variables, a bunch of variables. We're going to go ahead and do try. Or let's actually just do, oops. Alright. So next thing we're going to do is we're going to have some constants up here. So public static final save default save equals new save 0. So it's just the default save is just going to be a save with the high score being 0. And then we're going to go ahead and make our file name. So static string file name. We're going to do tutorial file or tutorial 7 file 2. And then we're just going to do .dat. You can do whatever file extension you so damn well please. But we're going to go ahead and use DATs. That's kind of the standard for saving just information that the program's going to use, like save files. You can do .sav, but you can do whatever you want. You can do .sshs, whatever. Because only your program is going to know how to read it. So, okay, so let's go ahead, just do save equals new save, and then in here we're going to do save.load file name. Okay, oh, but .load has a throws declaration, so we have to surround it with a try catch. So, I'm actually just going to have it be as a normal exception. So go ahead, just delete all this and this. So it's going to catch any exception. If it fails to do any of the things that it needs to do, it's just going to go ahead and load the default save. So we're going to do sysout could not load file setting to default save. Alright. And it's going to do save equals, or s equals new save default save. Okay? And then after that, so regardless of whether or not it actually loaded it from a file or used a default save, this save is going to have a high score. It's going to have an instance now. So we're going to go ahead and do high score equals s.getHighScore. So now it's going to be whatever is going to be in that file is going to be this high score integer. So no matter how many times you run the program, that integer will always be saved. So let's just go ahead and sysout before we do anything. We're going to string.format. We're going to do high score. We're going to give it that and then do an s, a string. And we're going to go ahead and do 6 leading zeros, high score. Alright, so that's that. And we're going to go ahead and just make a for int I equals 0, I is less than 100, or scores.length. It's always best to do that instead of just knowing the actual length and putting it in there, because sometimes you want to change this, or sometimes you want this to be a variable that's set elsewhere in the program. You always want to do it for all the things in the array, so just know that. So scores we're going to go ahead and just do I equals r dot next int. So it's going to be between 0 and 999. So that's that. So now we're just going to do high score is equal to math.max. So now it's going to do the same thing. So if the high score was already greater than, so it's going to do high score, and then it's going to do highest and score array scores. So what this is doing is it's telling it, okay, so high score, say high score is 23, and the highest in the int array was 22. The high score is still going to be 23, but say if the high score was 23 and then this was 50, now it's going to be 50, the new high score. So let's just go ahead and let's do that, and let's print it. So sysout string.format. You could just do printf, but I like the string, just doing println string format, because printf does not automatically put it on a new line like println does. So, and string.format you can use anywhere, not just in the print. So string.format. So new high score %s, and we're just going to do 6 leading zeros high score. Alright, so that's that. So now we're going to do s.setHighScore. Oops, I was doing the right thing and I deleted it. Okay, so now we're going to take the save object and we're going to, alright, so now we changed the high score, now let's put it back into save. And now let's save the file. So save.save s file name. Okay, so once again we have a file, we have to do it, oops, that's not what I wanted. We need a try catch here. Try catch in case something goes wrong with saving. And let me tell you, something will definitely go wrong with saving. Now let's run this. Not serializable exception. What does that mean? So it just saved just a whole bunch of, this actually saved the stack trace, so we don't actually want that. So let's go ahead and delete that, that file. So not serializable exception. What does that mean? Well, it means that save is not serializable. Serializable is what allows an object to be saved to a file. So actually, anything that you want to save needs to implement an interface called Serializable from Java.io. So this serializable is what allows it to be saved, and every field in the class needs to also be serializable. All of the primitive types are serializable, but if you ever have, like, say you're working in a program and you have just a coordinate class and you want to save a bunch of coordinates, that coordinate class and the object holding the coordinates both have to implement serializable. So that's just a rule that you need to know when you're saving objects, because this is serializing objects, and there's actually a way to serialize it manually in case you're working with Android and such, where you actually convert it into a byte array, which will pretty much write it into binary. But these two classes do it automatically on the desktop version of Java, so you don't need to worry about that. So public class save. So now there's the serializable class does not declare static final serial version UID. So you actually want this, just do a generated one. This is just a number that it generates to identify this class when it's serializing it. That's just what it is. It's no big deal. The actual number itself doesn't matter. That's why you can just put a generated class number. So, alright, so that's that. So now we should be able to run this. Alright, so could not load file, setting to default save. So it couldn't find the file because it didn't exist. So the high score is 0 because in the default save, high score is 0. New high score, so it got 998. So now let's run this again. High score, 998, and it stayed like that. Let's go ahead and run this. Ooh, high score, 998, and then it beat the high score, got 999. Wow, good job, computer, you beat yourself. So let's go ahead and let's look at the DAT file that it created. Wow, this is very different from just saving a number. This is a byte array. This is just pretty much just a bunch of gibberish that is the object itself. So when it loads it, it's going to be loading this. But no, we cannot change any of this. We can't go in and edit this. One thing that's important to know, that if you're going to be including strings, say you have like usernames and passwords, it does actually put the string value in there because of, whatever. So try to encrypt your strings. I might teach you guys how to encrypt strings. Not really, probably. But yeah, but if you were to like say edit this and like delete that, it would actually mess up. So set to the default one. So just know that this time it did it correctly. So yeah. So just to prove that it's actually using this, let's just set this to 90, and the high score is 90 when it loads. Default, whatever. So yeah, so that's that. That's it for file input output. There's a bunch of other stuff that you can do with it, but this is the basics of what you need to know in order to use anything concerning files. So thank you for watching, and have a good day. Bye bye.